everybody. Thanks for coming back to us, the archaeological study of you. I'm really excited to present my next guest and my next speaker, my next man, just a powerful story, Mr. Rob Poleki. Great to have you on. We don't know each other in person. We've only met through social media, which is the one thing I really love about social media, is to be able to share experiences, connect, and linked up. So Rob, thank you so much for coming on. I know people who are going to listen to this are going to get inspired and they're going to love to listen to your story. So beforehand, go ahead and take, 5-7 minutes, kind of introduce yourself, what makes you, where you're from, kind of give me some of your background. And then we'll dive into obviously your why.
Yeah. Hey, Cameron, I appreciate you having me on the show and giving me the opportunity to tell my story. I really appreciate how a lot of people who have podcasts are able to tell the story of the entrepreneur, but where we come from, right? So again, my name is Rob Poleki, CEO and founder of Washie. I come from very humble beginnings, born and raised in South Auckland, New Zealand. But before that, I want to go a little bit into where my family is from. So my parents migrated twice. They come from a small island in the Pacific Ocean, Samoa, and to find a better life, they went to New Zealand, and they had 3 children. They went to New Zealand speaking very little English, and try to make a living for our family and provide a better life than the islands. 12 years living in New Zealand. I grew up playing rugby. Again, I came from humble beginnings. It's not, I didn't grow up in the greatest neighborhoods. It was always something going on. Always trouble in the neighborhood. But that was life. The family life was good. I was raised by both of my parents. Both of my parents are still together, and I'm so blessed that I had 2 parents raising me. Unfortunately, some of my friends didn't. And it's because of that, and the guidance from my parents is because I probably didn't end up in jail or doing something, right? But
right.
When I was 12, my parents, my grandma, my aunts, they all saved up money so that we could make a transition to the States and live the American dream. Getting green cards, thousands of dollars, waiting, I think it was a 6-year waiting period. So they started when I was 6 years old, trying to get into the States, and we finally got in. So I moved to Hawaii when I was 12 years old. I had a New Zealand accent, and then I had to come in. There's a Hawaiian accent called Pidgin. And then, and so now I merged the accents, and nobody could understand me. So I was in middle school and just a new life, nothing that I was used to, and getting used to that. But, and I found out what the American life was about, man. I saw all kinds of opportunity, the bright lights. We would drive around to the rich neighborhoods, and my dad would just say, hey, one day we'll get a house like that. Maybe, one day when you grow up. And that was always the thing with us, is everywhere we went, man, it's one day we try to get that life for us, So yeah, moved to and grew up in Hawaii. Learned how to play football. I used to play rugby.
There you
and played football for the first time in high school. Did pretty well for myself, and got a scholarship to play football at ISU, Idaho State University.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so went up there and played 4 years there. Did pretty well. Played a little arena ball after. My body gave out on me, so I hung it up and got a real job. Started the career.
There you go.
I met my wife in college, and that's where the business and the career, parts start with me. And I think we'll get into that later on. But originally from New Zealand, grew up in Hawaii, and then moved to Idaho when I was 18 years old.
Brother, that's a lot to take in. I mean, that literally, I just want to touch on one thing real quick, because this story is amazing, right? This is put it on Amazon Prime or YouTube TV. At 6 years old, your family started to save up money to move from one place to another. 6 years later, when you were 12, you ended up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
That, I mean, I don't know if people realize the struggle that it probably took your family to go through. So I just want to focus on that real quick. During that time from 6 to 12, right? You're probably hearing, hey, we're going to move. We're getting ready to move to the States. We're going to the States. As a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8, 9, you're like, all right, this is never going to happen, right? It's never going to happen. What was that like? Take us all through that experience of that 6 years of hearing, we're going to move. We're going to move. Like, how did you prep yourself? Do you remember like what you guys were doing to
Yeah.
contribute to getting the money to get over?
Yeah, man. So my dad, man, used to work nonstop in New Zealand, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I remember one time we had an appointment with the U.S. Embassy, and
Mhm.
it was like $800, dude. $800 back then in the early '90s, '80s, a lot of money. $800, and my mom went and bet on horses.
Oh,
In New Zealand, gambling on horses. And the things that we had to do to get the money, and one of the races came through. If just by coincidence that race did not come through, I would not be here today. We wouldn't have made it. We wouldn't have been able to pay for the $800. And the week before, she went and bet on the horses and made $1,000. I think it was like the biggest bet she ever won. And it was able to pay for that. And so we would always go to the U.S. Embassy, fingerprinting, documenting all these interviews, make sure that
yeah.
everything was straight. And that was a 6-year process, man. And paying all these fees. And my parents, man, we were poor when we grew up.
Mhm.
We had everything we needed, but it wasn't like we were lifestyles in the rich and famous. But
Yeah.
going through that struggle and seeing them through that struggle and all the sacrifices they made for us kids to give us kids a better life, man, you better repay them, back for that. I'm
Oh,
always,
yeah.
back in my mind is I need to repay my parents, for bringing us here because they
Sure.
made the ultimate sacrifice. So it was tough as a kid,
Yeah.
seeing that, going through all that. Now I know what they went through as a kid, going to all these appointments, but now I really know what they went through. So
Man, man. So I want to like just focus on this because some people will look at it and like your mom took all this money and bet, right? Went to horse races and gambled, right? And went betting. But
yeah,
I think the underlining tone is your mom was betting on the family.
yeah,
She knew that if she could bet on the family, right, there would be this life that would be provided for you and everybody that was in the family. So, I mean, I look at it from, man, she did what a parent is supposed to do, bet on the family, right? Bet
yeah,
on a better life and bet on, not just bet from a monetary standpoint, but bet on that she could deliver and you guys could get delivered and have this great meeting. I think that's fantastic, man. I'm blown away. My just kind of a side note, my dad, like he went on a placement program. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints years ago started this institution called the placement program. My dad never had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So because of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and some other factors, he ended up getting shipped from Williams, Arizona up to, Twilla, Utah. And that's where he eventually graduated and became a man. So, man, that's so cool to have this story of parents betting on themselves to give their children a better life. That's
yeah.
fantastic, man. Seriously, that's a home run.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have kids or not, Cameron. You may have. I have kids. I mean, imagine put yourself in my parents' shoes where they had to come up with $800 the next week, and if we didn't come up, the years and years of work that they had worked towards getting our green cards would be gone.
Yeah.
So they were desperate. They were looking for a way, and I think she only bet like $8 on a race, and she tells me to this day, it's like I can't believe I had never won. She had never won anything, and it just coincidence, just a luck of the being blessed, luck of with God on our side. It just happened for us, and I'm glad it did.
Dude, yeah, we could go on forever about that mindset. And by the way, I do have kids. Yeah, I do have kids. I have 10 kids. I'm remarried. Between my wife and I, we have 10 kids. So which is It's a lot of
You know the struggle. You know the struggle.
Yeah. $800 in the 90s and $800 today. 800 bucks is still 800 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what principle did you learn? I know we kind of talked about this a little bit. So as you watched your parents, right, kind of go through what they went through as a kid, again, we're going to stick within the 6 to 12-year-old. What principles did you learn from your parents that have been embedded and instilled to you today?
Yeah. So they are the ultimate innovators and entrepreneurs. That's
Mm-hmm.
where I get it from, man. Being being poor, you have to be creative.
Yeah.
Being wanting something and needing something are different things. And when you're needing something, you are the best innovator, right?
Right.
Those were my parents. They came and they took the first leap of faith to go from a very small island to go to New Zealand, not speaking any English, and getting jobs there, and just taking a risk on them, on themselves, and then raising a family there. Those were the early days when I started learning hustle, right?
Right.
When I started learning, you need to do what you need to do to go make it happen. And I've taken those principles that I learned when I was a kid, and I've had them the whole way, till I was an elected official in the state of Idaho, to me being an entrepreneur. I did everything to hustle and
Mm-hmm.
to get what I wanted. So yeah.
Man, let's talk about that, the hustle, right? Because there's variations of this hustle, right? We hear this word hustle, it's thrown around a lot, and I think, like you said, when you come from humble beginnings, you watch your parents hustle, right?
Yeah.
They hustle to do what they do. But now you're in a unique position, right? Where you obviously, we'll touch more about you being an elected official, your entrepreneurship. How are you taking what you learned as a kid and instilling that in your own children, and now this new um, unknown hustle, right? Your hustle, what
Yeah.
you saw your parents was one. Now you have a hustle. It's still a hustle, but it's a different type of hustle. So bring us into that. Help us understand how you're instilling that hustle into not only your kids, but those that you oversee.
Yeah. So my parents' hustle was grinding it out from 6 a.m. in the morning and not seeing my dad till 10 o'clock at night, because he's gone working all kinds of jobs, finding all kinds of hours anywhere to bring home money, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the hustle that I saw my parents. Their grind was a different grind, but it was
Yeah.
the 9 to 5, the 7 days a week grind, right?
Right.
And
Right.
as I've progressed and as our families progressed, now the grind is this, right? Is not really working like 24 hours a day, but using what I've learned throughout my childhood and college to multiply that by 10, right? Just to use our minds rather than the physical labor. Use our minds to have some multiple businesses, to have multiple streams of income. So, and that's kind of what I'm teaching my kids. My parents taught me the hustle of hard work. I'm
Yep.
teaching my kids smart work, right? So it's all the evolution, right? It's all the evolution of what's been passed down from our parents. And bro, and the grind, man. I
Mm-hmm.
stay up to like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with our manufacturers overseas, like constantly on, up late at night, and then waking up early in the morning, staying with my kids, going back to work. That is the hustle that I learned from my parents. But
Yeah.
as we keep moving forward, now, being smarter, having multiple businesses, having people do that for us. So yeah, that's the hustle now.
Look, if y'all don't stop right here and push pause and reflect on what Rob just told you about the hustle, I mean, you're really doing yourself a disservice, because he just broke it down, right? He went through the physical hustle, saw the physical hustle, and said to himself, look, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to learn from those in front of me, which were his parents, great examples. I'm going to learn not to use my physical, but my mental, right? I'm going to grow the mental. I'm going to grow my mind. I'm going to grow the tools that are out there, so that my hustle now is from a mental standpoint, so my body can keep up with it. As reverse, it's when it's a physical, your mind is trying to keep up with that physicalness of your body being tired and broke down and beat up. I mean, when your arms are hurt, your hands are sore, your body's sore, the mind may be willing, but the body's like, not happening today. And when you flip the script and say, my body will keep up with my mental capacity. As long as I put the right nourishments and put the right things in my body, my brain will still stay strong. And I think that is huge, well, principle across the board. So I appreciate you sharing that. So let me ask you this question, because it's always a really fun question to ask people. What fears did you have growing up that when you moved from obviously Auckland to Hawaii and then moved into college, what fear obviously it's just that, influx of change. There had to be some kind of fear. What fear did you have at a younger age that you saw prevalent in your adult age? And then the second part of the question is, how are you able to combat the fear and overcome the fear?
Yeah. I'll start with this. I never had a fear of going back to the bottom, right? I never had a fear because I know what that's like, right? Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to not be the smartest in the class. I've been there. I know what it's like to not have money, right? And everybody else, that's in the car has got money and I don't. And the embarrassment of, hey, we're going to eat, ain't got no money, right?
Yeah.
So I've been at the bottom. I was never afraid to go back there, but I was afraid of the next step, right? I was afraid of going to college. I was the first one in my family to go to college. I was all alone, 18 years old in Idaho, Pocatello, Idaho, small town. I was probably maybe 1 out of 10, brown people. Brown people there, man.
Yeah.
And the unknown, there was a lot of unknown. I got myself into some trouble when I went to college because I was free. My parents always had me on lock because there was trouble out in Hawaii. They didn't want me getting just the unknown, right? There was always the fear of unknown, and everyone has that fear. But that was my fear of what am I doing? What am I becoming? Am I losing myself? I used to be this kid that grew up and was just a tough kid, played football kid. Now I'm becoming this career-minded professional. What am I becoming? Am I losing myself? So the fear was always something new. The fear was never I could always go. Right now, I could go back to the bottom. I would hate it, but okay, I'm okay. I'll make it back up. But the fear of something new out there. What is it? And overcoming that, it was just, man, it was going through the fire, man. A lot of things when I was 18 years old and I went to college, no car, didn't know what college life was like, knew no one, and making the first step to say, yo, I'm Rob. I'm Rob from Hawaii, meeting all these new people. And that was the first step. But it's been okay. I think I've done well.
In all the years that I've interviewed people and talked to people, that's probably one of the deepest things I've heard of. I wasn't afraid to go to the bottom, but I was afraid to do that next step, the unknown, right? Because when you're familiar with that struggle, right? When you're familiar with the bottom, and you're familiar with, hey, I'm comfortable, right? My comfortability is down here. My uncomfortability is actually rising up and going out. Man, that is so huge to think, to just think about and ponder about that. I'm like, yeah, that is absolutely incredible and just a monumental. So,
well, Cameron, there's this stage. I want to speak about this up. There's a stage, I think, with everyone in life that there's a little hump, right, to get over. And a lot of people that don't get over that hump stay within that mindset of, I'm gonna go get the same old job. I'm gonna try to make ends meet. I'm going job to job, and rather than getting over that hump and finding something new. You're stuck in that place. And I find a lot of entrepreneurs that hit me up on LinkedIn trying to find that motivation to get over that hump.
Yep.
And figure it out. And it is all fear. It's all fear of losing what they've had, not going back to the bottom. But if you've been at the bottom, you know how to get back up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that hump. It's that hump. Trying to get over that hump is the biggest part. And I was forced to get over the hump. Somehow I was lucky enough that I was forced to get over the hump, and I've tried to stay above the hump and not go back down to the bottom. So, yeah.
Right. Right. Look, man, if y'all just got called out, me being one of them, right? I'll raise my hand, just like everybody else who's probably just got called out of saying, stop being status quo, right? Stop thinking, well, I'm only good for this job, right? This job, right? I heard a great saying about the job, right? Just over broke. And that's what a 9 to 5, 40 hour a week, nice, salary is. And it's true. And I think what you just said about this hump and that fear of just going out and doing it, man, if any of you out there are listening to this, want an inspiration to get going, let Rob's, kick to the backside, get you all going. Cause that is absolutely huge. Cause I think, man, powerful.